Welcome to Bible Quiz Tube. Ready to challenge your Bible knowledge? We've got 30 tough questions from the Old and New Testaments. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your score in the comments. Let's dive into the quiz.
Question 1. What was the consequence of Adam and Eve eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? A. They gained immortality. B. They were expelled from the Garden of Eden. C. They were given divine wisdom. D. They became angels. The correct answer is B. They were expelled from the Garden of Eden. The explanation: Adam and Eve disobeyed God's command not to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which led to them being expelled from the Garden of Eden. Genesis chapter 3 verse 23. This disobedience brought sin and death into the world, altering humanity's relationship with God. Question 2. Who disobeyed God's command to speak to the rock and instead struck it twice, and what was the consequence? A. Moses. He was not allowed to enter the promised land. B. Aaron. He lost his position as high priest. C. Joshua. He lost his leadership role. D. Caleb. He was punished with illness. The correct answer is A. Moses. He was not allowed to enter the promised land. The explanation: Moses disobeyed God by striking the rock instead of speaking to it as instructed. Numbers chapter 20 verses 11 to 12. As a result, God did not allow Moses to lead the Israelites into the promised land, emphasizing the importance of complete obedience to God's instructions. Question 3. Which prophet disobeyed God's command to preach to Nineveh and was swallowed by a great fish? A. Elijah. B. Jonah. C. Hosea. D. Amos. The correct answer is B. Jonah. The explanation: Jonah initially disobeyed God's command to go to Nineveh and fled in the opposite direction. As a consequence, he was swallowed by a great fish and remained there for 3 days and nights until he repented and agreed to fulfill God's mission. Jonah chapter 1 verse 17. Question 4. What did King Saul do that led to God rejecting him as king over Israel? A. He spared King Agag and the best of the livestock. B. He built a temple to the Lord. C. He offered a sacrifice without Samuel. D. He destroyed all the Amalekites as commanded. The correct answer is A. He spared King Agag and the best of the livestock. The explanation: King Saul disobeyed God's command to completely destroy the Amalekites and their possessions. 1 Samuel chapter 15 verse 9. He spared King Agag and the best of the livestock, which led to Samuel declaring that God had rejected Saul as king due to his disobedience. Question 5. Who disobeyed God's instructions regarding the Ark of the Covenant and touched it, resulting in immediate death? A. Usza. B. Eleazar. C. Nadab. D. Abihu. The correct answer is A. Usza. The explanation: Usza disobeyed God's instruction by touching the Ark of the Covenant when the oxen stumbled. 2 Samuel chapter 6 verses 6 to 7. Despite his good intentions, touching the ark was strictly forbidden, and Usza was struck down by God, highlighting the importance of reverence and obedience to God's holiness. Question 6. Which couple lied about the proceeds from the sale of their property, leading to their deaths? A. Ananias and Sapphira. B. Aquila and Priscilla. C. Zechariah and Elizabeth. D. Isaac and Rebekah. The correct answer is A. Ananias and Sapphira. The explanation. Ananias and Sapphira disobeyed God by lying about the amount of money they received from selling their property. Acts chapter 5 verses 1 to 11. As a result of their deception, both were struck dead, serving as a warning against dishonesty and testing the Holy Spirit. Question 7. What was the consequence of Lot's wife disobeying the angel's command to not look back at Sodom? A. She became a pillar of salt. B. She was carried away by angels. C. She was turned into a bird. D. She was taken to heaven. The correct answer is A. She became a pillar of salt. The explanation. Lot's wife disobeyed the angel's command not to look back at the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, Genesis chapter 19 verse 26. As a consequence of her disobedience, she was turned into a pillar of salt, symbolizing the danger of attachment to sinful ways. Question 8. Who hid spoils from Jericho, disobeying God's command, which led to Israel's defeat at Ai? A. Achan. B. Caleb. C. Joshua. D. Eleazar. The correct answer is A. Achan. The explanation. Achan disobeyed God's command by taking some of the devoted items from Jericho, which was forbidden, Joshua chapter 7 verse 1. His disobedience led to Israel's defeat at Ai and ultimately his death, teaching the importance of following God's commands for the good of the community. Question 9. Which disciple denied Jesus 3 times despite being warned beforehand? A. Peter. B. John. C. James. D. Andrew. The correct answer is A. Peter. The explanation. Peter disobeyed Jesus' earlier warning by denying him 3 times before the rooster crowed, Matthew chapter 26 verses 34, 69 to 75. Despite his failure, Peter later repented and was restored by Jesus, becoming a key leader in the early church. This story highlights God's forgiveness even after disobedience. Question 10. Who disobeyed God's specific dietary command, leading to the fall of humanity? A. Adam and Eve. B. Cain and Abel. C. Noah and his sons. D. Abraham and Sarah. The correct answer is A. Adam and Eve. The explanation. Adam and Eve disobeyed God's command not to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, Genesis chapter 2 verses 16 to 17. Their disobedience led to the introduction of sin into the world, altering humanity's relationship with God. This foundational story illustrates the severe consequences of disobedience to God's direct commands. Question 11. Who lied to God about the proceeds from the sale of their land and died as a result? A. Ananias and Sapphira. B. Aquila and Priscilla. C. Peter and John. D. Simon and Anna. The correct answer is A. Ananias and Sapphira. The explanation. Ananias and Sapphira sold a piece of property but kept back part of the money while claiming to have given all of it, Acts chapter 5 verses 1 to 10. This deceit led to their immediate deaths, showing the seriousness of lying to God. Question 12. Who disobeyed God's command by taking forbidden items from Jericho, leading to trouble for the Israelites? A. Achan. B. Joshua. C. Caleb. D. Gideon. The correct answer is A. Achan. The explanation. Achan took some of the forbidden items from Jericho, which led to Israel's defeat at Ai, Joshua chapter 7 verses 1 to 26. His disobedience brought consequences for both himself and the entire community, showing the importance of following God's commands.
Enjoying the Bible quiz? Subscribe now for more challenging and fun Bible questions.
Question 13. What happened when the Israelites disobeyed God and worshipped the golden calf at Mount Sinai? A. Moses blessed them. B. The Levites killed about 3,000 men. C. They entered the promised land immediately. D. God praised their creativity. The correct answer is B. The Levites killed about 3,000 men. The explanation. When the Israelites worshipped the golden calf, God was furious, and Moses instructed the Levites to kill about 3,000 people who had sinned. Exodus chapter 32 verse 28. This event shows the consequences of idolatry and disobedience to God's commands. Question 14. What was the consequence for King Solomon's disobedience in marrying foreign wives and worshipping their gods? A. His kingdom was divided. B. He became the richest king. C. God made him immortal. D. He built a new temple. The correct answer is A. His kingdom was divided. The explanation. King Solomon's disobedience in marrying foreign wives and worshipping their gods led to God's judgment. As a consequence, God decided to divide the kingdom after Solomon's reign. 1 Kings chapter 11 verses 11 to 13. Question 15. What was the consequence of King David's disobedience in taking a census of Israel? A. God sent a plague on Israel. B. He lost his throne. C. He was captured by enemies. D. He was struck with blindness. The correct answer is A. God sent a plague on Israel. The explanation. King David disobeyed God's command by taking a census of Israel, which demonstrated a lack of trust in God's power. As a consequence, God sent a plague that killed 70,000 people. 2 Samuel chapter 24 verse 15. Question 16. Who disobeyed God's command to completely destroy the Amalekites and kept the best livestock instead? A. Saul. B. David. C. Solomon. D. Samuel. The correct answer is A. Saul. The explanation. King Saul disobeyed God's command to completely destroy the Amalekites and their livestock. Instead, he kept the best livestock and spared King Agag. This disobedience led to God rejecting Saul as king. 1 Samuel chapter 15 verses 9 to 23. Question 17. What was the consequence of Israel's disobedience during their journey to the Promised Land when they refused to enter it? A. They wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. B. They immediately entered the Promised Land. C. They were all struck dead. D. They built a new city. The correct answer is A. They wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. The explanation. When the Israelites refused to enter the Promised Land due to fear and lack of faith, God punished them by making them wander in the wilderness for 40 years until that generation passed away. Numbers chapter 14 verses 30 to 34. Question 18. Who was swallowed by the earth as a consequence of rebelling against Moses and Aaron? A. Korah and his followers. B. Dathan and Abiram. C. Nadab and Abihu. D. Eleazar and Ithamar. The correct answer is A. Korah and his followers. The explanation. Korah, Dathan, Abiram, and their followers rebelled against Moses and Aaron's leadership. As a result, God caused the earth to open up and swallow them, emphasizing the seriousness of rebelling against God's appointed leaders. Numbers chapter 16 verses 31 to 33. Question 19. What happened to Miriam when she spoke against Moses? A. She became a leper. B. She was struck blind. C. She was swallowed by the earth. D. She was exiled. The correct answer is A. She became a leper. The explanation. Miriam, along with Aaron, spoke against Moses, questioning his leadership. As a consequence, God struck her with leprosy for 7 days until Moses prayed for her healing. Numbers chapter 12 verses 10 to 15. This event demonstrates the seriousness of speaking against God's chosen leaders. Question 20. What was the consequence of King Uzziah's disobedience when he entered the temple to burn incense? A. He was struck with leprosy. B. He was struck dead. C. He lost his kingdom. D. He became blind. The correct answer is A. He was struck with leprosy. The explanation. King Uzziah entered the temple to burn incense, a task reserved for the priests. As a result of his disobedience, God struck him with leprosy, and he lived in isolation until his death. 2 Chronicles chapter 26 verses 16 to 21. Question 21. What was the consequence for the Israelites' disobedience in not driving out all the inhabitants of Canaan? A. The remaining inhabitants became a thorn in their sides. B. They were blessed with peace. C. They were given more land. D. They entered into an alliance with the inhabitants. The correct answer is A. The remaining inhabitants became a thorn in their sides. The explanation. The Israelites disobeyed God's command to drive out all the inhabitants of Canaan. As a result, the remaining inhabitants became a constant source of trouble and led them into idolatry. Judges chapter 2 verses 1 to 3. Question 22. Who was punished for offering unauthorized fire before the Lord? A. Nadab and Abihu. B. Eleazar and Ithamar. C. Aaron and Moses. D. Korah and Dathan. The correct answer is A. Nadab and Abihu. The explanation. Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, offered unauthorized fire before the Lord, which he had not commanded. As a result, fire came out from the presence of the Lord and consumed them. Leviticus chapter 10 verses 1 to 2. Question 23. What happened when the people of Israel demanded a king, despite God's warning? A. God granted their request, but they faced hardships. B. God refused their request. C. They lived in prosperity. D. They were exiled immediately. The correct answer is A. God granted their request, but they faced hardships. The explanation. The Israelites demanded a king to be like other nations, despite God's warning about the consequences. God granted their request, but they faced hardships under their kings, starting with Saul. 1 Samuel chapter 8 verses 19 to 22. Question 24. What was the consequence of David's disobedience in moving the Ark of the Covenant improperly? A. Usza was struck dead. B. The ark was lost. C. David was punished with leprosy. D. The ark caught fire. The correct answer is A. Usza was struck dead. The explanation. David moved the Ark of the Covenant on a cart instead of having it carried by the Levites as God commanded. When the oxen stumbled, Usza reached out to steady the ark and was struck dead by God for his irreverence. 2 Samuel chapter 6 verses 6 to 7. Question 25. What was the consequence for the Israelites when they complained against God and Moses in the wilderness? A. Fiery serpents were sent among them. B. They were immediately taken to the promised land. C. They were given manna. D. They built a golden calf. The correct answer is A. Fiery serpents were sent among them. The explanation. When the Israelites complained against God and Moses, God sent fiery serpents among them, and many people died. Moses interceded, and God instructed him to make a bronze serpent so that those who looked at it would live. Numbers chapter 21 verses 4 to 9. Question 26. Who was struck with leprosy for taking spoils from the Syrian army contrary to God's command? A. Gehazi. B. Elisha. C. Naaman. D. Jehu. The correct answer is A. Gehazi. The explanation. Gehazi, the servant of Elisha, disobeyed God's command by taking spoils from Naaman, the Syrian army commander. As a consequence, Gehazi was struck with Naaman's leprosy. 2 Kings chapter 5 verses 20 to 27. Question 27. What was the consequence for Jeroboam's disobedience in setting up golden calves for worship? A. His dynasty was destroyed. B. He was blessed with a long reign. C. The golden calves were accepted by God. D. He became a priest. The correct answer is A. His dynasty was destroyed. The explanation. Jeroboam set up golden calves for worship in Bethel and Dan, leading Israel into idolatry. As a result, God declared that Jeroboam's dynasty would be destroyed. 1 Kings chapter 14 verses 9 to 10. Question 28. What happened to the prophet who disobeyed God's command by eating and drinking in Bethel? A. He was killed by a lion. B. He became a leper. C. He was swallowed by the earth. D. He was taken to heaven. The correct answer is A. He was killed by a lion. The explanation. The man of God from Judah disobeyed God's command by eating and drinking in Bethel. As a consequence, he was killed by a lion on his way back. 1 Kings chapter 13 verses 19 to 24. Question 29. What was the consequence of Jonah's disobedience in fleeing from God's command to go to Nineveh? A. He was swallowed by a great fish. B. He was struck blind. C. He lost his voice. D. He was exiled. The correct answer is A. He was swallowed by a great fish. The explanation. Jonah fled from God's command to go to Nineveh, and as a consequence, he was swallowed by a great fish where he stayed for 3 days and 3 nights until he repented. Jonah chapter 1 verse 17. Question 30. What was the consequence of King Zedekiah's disobedience to God's command through Jeremiah? A. Jerusalem was destroyed. B. He was blessed with a long reign. C. He built a new temple. D. He was made a prophet. The correct answer is A. Jerusalem was destroyed. The explanation. King Zedekiah disobeyed God's command through the prophet Jeremiah to surrender to the Babylonians. As a result, Jerusalem was destroyed, and Zedekiah was captured and taken to Babylon. Jeremiah chapter 39 verses 1 to 7.
Don't forget to subscribe and like to support our channel. Share your score in the comments and join our community and support our mission.